A whip is an official in a political party whose primary purpose is to ensure party discipline in a legislature. Whips are a party's enforcers, who typically offer inducements and threaten party members to ensure that they vote according to the official party policy. A whip's role is also to ensure that the elected representatives of their party are in attendance when important votes are taken. The usage comes from the hunting term whipping in, that is preventing hounds from wandering away from the pack. The term whip is also used to mean the voting instructions issued to members by the whip, or, in the UK and Ireland, a party's endorsement of a member of parliament or a teacher law. To withdraw the whip is to expel an MP or TD from his or her parliamentary party. Australia. In the Parliament of Australia, as well as in the parliaments of the 6 states and 2 self-governing territories, all political parties have whips to ensure party discipline and carry out a variety of other functions on behalf of the party leadership. The most important function of the whip's office is to ensure that all members and senators are present to take part in votes in the chamber. Unlike in the United Kingdom, Australian whips do not hold official office, but they are recognised for parliamentary purposes. In practice, Australian whips play a lesser role than their counterparts in the United Kingdom, as party discipline in Australia tends to be tighter. Their roles in the chamber include taking divisions, and maintaining a pairs book, which controls the ability of members and senators to leave the Parliament building during sittings, as well as the entitlement to be absent during divisions. Liberal Party whips are appointed by the leader of the party, while Australian Labor Party whips are elected by the caucus. For Labor and the Liberals, the chief whip is assisted by 2 deputy whips. Similar arrangements exist in the state and territory parliaments. Canada. Ireland. Whips exist for all parliamentary parties and Dáil Permel Irian and Senada Permel Irian. The government chief whip is normally a Minister of State at the Department of the Taoiseach, and attends cabinet meetings. The whips of each house meet weekly to set the agenda for the next week's business. The technical group in the Dáil and the analogous independent groups in the Senate nominate whips to attend these meetings even though there is no party line for their whips to enforce. Whips also coordinate pairing. The timing of most votes are difficult to predict and TDs are expected to stay within reach of the division bell at all times. All TDs are required to vote with their party and to earn permission if they will to be absent from a vote. Free votes are not a feature of the Irish parliamentary tradition. From 1998, whips and assistant whips may be entitled to an allowance on top of their base legislator's salary. In 2011, these allowances varied proportional to the size of the group, with Fianna Fáil's Dáil whip's allowance the highest at $19,000. Greece. In Greece, party discipline is normally very strict. However, a few governments have collapsed despite this strictness. The role of the whip is usually exercised by the party leader, but Kostas Karamanlis, the Prime Minister from 2004 to 2009 and former leader of the New Democracy Party, mostly used Giannis Dragakis, General Secretary of his party parliamentary group, as a whip. Until November 2008, New Democracy, Karamanlis' party, had 152 MPs out of 300. When Petros Tartoulis, MP for Arcadia Prefecture, stated that Karamanlis was guilty of a few political scandals, Karamanlis immediately expelled him from both the parliamentary group and the party, as a result giving New Democracy a majority of only 1 seat. India. In India, the concept of the whip was inherited from colonial British rule. Every major political party appoints a whip who is responsible for the party's discipline and behaviour on the floor of the House. Usually, he/she directs the party members to stick to the party's stand on certain issues and directs them to vote as per the direction of senior party members. However, there are some cases such as Indian presidential elections where whips cannot direct a member of parliament or member of legislative assembly on whom to vote. Malaysia. New Zealand. In New Zealand, the concept of the whip was inherited from British rule. All political parties that have 4 or more members in parliament have at least one party whip, although Green Party whips are called musterers. Parties with 25 to 44 members are allowed 2 whips, and parties with 45 or more members are entitled to 3 whips. Whips act in an administrative role, making sure members of their party are in the debating chamber when required and organizing members of their party to speak during debates. Since the introduction of proportional representation in 1996, divisions which require all members in the chamber to vote by taking sides are rarely used, except for conscience issues. Instead, one of the party's whips votes on behalf of all the members of their party, by declaring how many members are in favor and/or how many members are opposed. They also cast proxy votes for single-member parties whose member is not in the chamber at the time of the vote, and also cast proxy vote during personal votes for absent members of their parties and for absent members of associated single-member parties. South Africa. Although South Africa uses a proportional representation system, the concept of a political party whip, which was inherited from colonial British rule, has been maintained. United Kingdom. In British politics, the chief whip of the governing party in the House of Commons is customarily appointed as parliamentary secretary to the Treasury so that the incumbent, who represents the whips in general, has a seat and a voice in the cabinet. By virtue of holding the office of parliamentary secretary to the Treasury, the government chief whip has an official residence at 12 Downing Street, although the chief whip's office is currently located at 9 Downing Street. Whips report to the Prime Minister on any possible backbench revolts and the general opinion of MPs within the party, and upon the exercise of the patronage which is used to motivate and reward loyalty. In the United Kingdom, there are 3 categories of whip that are issued on particular business. An express instruction on how to vote could constitute a breach of parliamentary privilege, so the party's wishes are expressed unequivocally but indirectly. These whips are issued to MPs in the form of a letter outlining the parliamentary schedule, with a sentence such as "Your attendance is absolutely essential" next to each debate in which there will be a vote. Underline 1, 2 or 3 times according to the severity of the whip. A single-line whip is a guide to what the party's policy would indicate, and notification of when the vote is expected to take place. This is non-binding for attendance or voting. A 2-line whip, sometimes known as a double-line whip, is an instruction to attend and vote. Partially binding for voting, attendance required unless prior permission given by the whip. A 3-line whip is a strict instruction to attend and vote, breach of which would normally have serious consequences. Permission not to attend may be given by the whip, but a serious reason is needed. Breach of a 3-line whip can lead to expulsion from the parliamentary political group in extreme circumstances and may lead to expulsion from the party. Consequently, 3-line whips are generally only issued on key issues, such as votes of confidence and supply. The nature of 3-line whips and the potential punishments for revolt vary dramatically among parties and legislatures. Disobeying a 3-line whip is a newsworthy event, indicating as it does a potential mutiny. An example was the decision on July 10, 2012 by 91 Conservative MPs to vote against Prime Minister David Cameron on the issue of reform of the House of Lords. United States. In the United States there are legislatures at the local, state, and federal levels. The federal legislature, state legislatures, and many county and city legislative bodies are divided along party lines and have whips, as well as majority and minority leaders. Similarly, the whip may also be known as the assistant majority or assistant minority leader. Both houses of Congress, the House of Representatives and Senate, have majority and minority whips. They in turn have subordinate regional whips. While members of Congress often vote along party lines, the influence of the whip is weaker than in the UK system. One reason is that a considerable amount of money is raised by individual candidates, and members of Congress are almost never ejected from a party. In addition, because pre-selection of candidates for office is generally done through a primary election open to a wide number of voters, it is difficult for the National Party to deselect a member of Congress who defies his party in a way that pleases his or her constituency. Because members of Congress cannot serve simultaneously in executive positions, a whip in the United States cannot bargain with a member by using as an inducement the possibility of promotion or demotion in a sitting administration. There is, however, a highly structured committee system in both houses of Congress, and a whip may be able to use promotion or demotion within that system instead. In the House of Representatives, The influence of a single member individually is relatively small and therefore depends a great deal on the representative's seniority. In the Senate, the Majority Whip is the third highest ranking individual in the Majority Party. The Majority Whip is outranked by the Majority Leader and, unofficially, the President pro tempore. Because the office of President pro tempore is largely honorific and usually given to the longest-serving senator of the majority, the Majority Whip is in reality the second-ranking senator in the Majority Conference in terms of actual power. Similarly, in the House, the Majority Whip is outranked by both the Majority Leader and the Speaker. Unlike the Senate's presiding officer, the Speaker is the leader of his or her party's caucus in the House. In both the House and the Senate, the Minority Whip is the second highest-ranking individual in the Minority Party, outranked only by the Minority Leader. The whip position was first created in the House of Representatives in 1897 by Republican Speaker Thomas Reed, who appointed James A. Tawney as the first whip. The first Democratic whip, Oscar Wilder Underwood, was appointed around 1900. In the Senate, the position was created in 1913 by John W. Kern, chair of the Democratic caucus, when he appointed J. Hamilton Lewis as the first whip, while Republicans later chose James Wadsworth as the party's first in 1915. Whips in other parts of the world, in most countries not now or formerly under control of the British Empire or part of the Commonwealth of Nations like most of continental Europe and Asia the position of whip doesn't officially exist. The whip's responsibilities are mostly exercised by the party leader or the leader of a parliamentary faction themselves. References. External links: Chisholm, Hugh, ed. Whip. Encyclopædia Britannica. Cambridge University Press A.